Hello. Our guest today is Dr. Ejaz Ahmed. He's a professor and dean of the Faculty of Mathematics and Science at the Brook University. Dr. Ahmed, thank you very much for your time. I know you have a very busy schedule. I appreciate you accepted our invitation. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you very much. And you are most welcome. And thank you very much for the invitation. Indeed, pleasure is all mine to chat about something which is near and dear to both of us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Doctor, it's just our format. So first, I will try to give some brief information about you, and that's what I could find on the internet. But so I will share my screen now. I hope it will work,
Sure.
and we will. See.
Yeah, it's working.
So yeah. Um, I will minimize our own pictures. Dr. Ejaz Ahmed is professor and dean of the Faculty of Mathematics and Science at the Brock University. Before joining Brock, he was a professor and head of mathematics at the University of Minster and University of Regina. Prior to that, he had a faculty position at the Western University. Dr. Ahmed is an internationally known scholar and an established researcher. His research interests concentrate on big data, predictive modeling, data science, and statistical machine learning with applications in many walks of life. His research has been supported by a variety of grants from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, the Canadian Institute of Health Research, Ontario Centre for Excellence, and other sources. His insert grant was renewed in 2017 for another 5 years with outstanding O in all 3 categories. Um, According to that year's competition statistics, only 2 applications overall from all small universities received a ranking of 3 O's or higher. His research achievements have been recognized with honors and awards, including, I will mention just some of them, the prestigious status of Fellow of the American Statistical Association, editor, associate editor to influential scientific journals, adjunct visiting professorships, and invited scholarly talks around the globe. He's an elected member of the International Statistical Institute and a fellow of the Royal Statistical Society. He served as a board of director and chairman of the Education Committee of the Statistical Society of Canada. Dr. Ahmed was awarded by the prestigious Boulogne Asian Chair Professorship. The University of Punjab, the largest and the oldest place of higher learning in Pakistan, named one of the auditoriums in his name. I know that it's really very big honor. I mean, it's a very high achievement. Now, recently, his paper entitled Non-Parametric Regression Estimates based on imputation techniques for right-censored data received Grant Prize Advancement Award by International Society of Management Science and Engineering Management. The paper was selected by an international awards member team spanning 11 countries. Dr. Ahmed authored several books, edited and co-edited several volumes and special issues of scientific journals. He's been the trigonometric review editor for the past 10 years. Dr. Ahmed has been a member of the board of directors of the Statistical Society of Canada and chair of its education committee. He was vice president of communications for the International Society for Business and Industrial Statistics, as well as a member of the Discovery Grants Evaluation Group and the Grant Selection Committee of the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada. So far, that's what I found from the internet. Dr. Ahmed published about 200 research articles in scientific journals and reviewed more than 100 books. Doctor, that's what I found. Please correct me if I made any mistake. I know I missed some part of information.
Thank you very much for your generous introduction. I think you covered all of my achievement and the or aspects of my academic and administrative life. So I'm very thankful for your kind and generous introduction.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but that just, I'm pretty sure, I mean, there were lots of more information, but I just kind of highlighted. Doctor, there is an, I'm coming back to our informal discussion. There is an irony in English. They say there would be no happiness, but misfortune helps. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, finally the media suddenly changed its priorities, and on TV shows, very often politicians, actors, singers have been replaced by doctors, scientists, mathematicians, by people who can make any prediction, and it's understandable. Recently, I found one of your interviews about the predictive models. You talked most about the models on COVID-19 dynamics. As an internationally recognized expert in predictive modeling, what could you tell us about these models? Do we have enough data for developing robust predictive models now, or we have to consider these models just as some projections with a particular level of reliability?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's very interesting. Just let me first talk about the interest of media. Media was always interested when this kind of things happen at a global level. If you recall about the Spanish flu 100 years ago, so it was there, media was there, but the only thing was we didn't have a social media or that kind of a digital media we have it today. So now everything happens at any time period of the time people know around the globe now. So that's the big difference nowadays. So I think this kind of pandemic is always interested to media because it's interested to general public, and media does whatever general public is looking for. They are looking for their ratings also. So they don't want to miss that opportunity and not covering it. So in coming back to the predictive modeling, predictive modeling in terms of the statistical term are quite useful and can do prediction quite accurately, of course with some prediction errors which we can measure it by using the mathematical modeling. But the problem is when human beings are involved in the modeling, like in COVID-19 case, then it's very hard to predict because it's a people behavior. So this might change day to day based on people behavior. We can predict something. So I think the most of the things is happening is more projection rather than prediction. And then again, projection is based on certain assumptions, as I mentioned, because things are changing every day. So if you recall, based on the statistics people are using from John Hopkins University, the data is coming from John Hopkins. And also the reliability of data comes first, then the reliability of the prediction. So there may be underreporting, there may be over-reporting, and and depends on the number of testing, as our American President Donald Trump is saying, because we are doing lots of far more testing than anybody else, so we have more cases. Of course, there is a correlation of happening that. So, but on the other hand, if you don't do tests, then you are putting a large population at risk, and especially people with certain age limits. Although we say that this virus doesn't care about the race or color or any other things, but it's care about the underlying conditions and the age of the person and the health condition. Most of the people from visible minorities, they do have more underlying condition, as is stated by the physicians or by the health expert, or the people who work in infectious disease expert like Dr. Fauci and other people. They, for example, lung condition, asthma, and the diabetics, this kind of people. And so if you look at the percentage of people in the population segment, the more people from the visible minorities, they have this certain condition due to a host of reasons, not having better, not taking care of health, or not having a health care. So it's begun. So it's the problem is deep rooted. We can go and talk on these matters. So in coming back to the predictive modeling, the predictive modeling will depend on the reliability of the data. And data is changing day by day, and then data can change by intervention, because once government takes some intervention, make mandatory about the mask and also social distancing, things would change. And as soon as the not doing intervention, just letting it as it goes, then the rate will go up. So it's become a nightmare for a statistician or any epidemiologist to do the modeling. And modeling can be done, anybody can do a model, I can do a model, you can do a model, but the problem is the accuracy of the model, prediction error, if we are doing a predictive modeling. For that reason, you heard more and more people talk about the projection. So projection is best. It's like a weather projection. To me, it's more like this kind of things. It's more like a weather projection. Today, you see on TV that tomorrow chances of rain are there, and rain doesn't happen, or it may happen. So this is the nature. We can control it. And here is the human being. So we can control them. So that's what the reason for accurate predictive modeling is. It's a very difficult task. And then, different, you can do for a particular region or particular area more precisely. When you are doing even for a country, big country like US, it's not easy, because the different geographical conditions are different at different places. So I would suggest, which I have done lots of research in this area, in combining models. So maybe it's better, probably the people at some universities and people who are the media is using their projections, they are doing it, but I don't know, because there is not sufficient information that how they are doing it. They are just telling us uh, right now, and they said in US by July 25th, another 20,000 people, or there will be another 20,000 death. So again, I don't know how they are doing it, but I think you can do much precise projection or even prediction by combining a different models. And from the even states level, or even within a states, different district levels or county levels, then it might give you more better precise answer. But just putting all the data, merging all the data together in one bucket and trying to get an answer, I think there will be an answer, but I will suspect the reliability of the answer. Did I answer all of your question, or I missed few points? Because when you are talking, your mind goes statistical and non-statistical
And
aspects. So if I miss something,
yeah,
please.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to know. And I remember one thing that I use your textbook, your statistics textbooks in my classes
Thank
for
you.
many years, and it's very interesting, and I like that one. That it's not very typical for university textbook. If you remember, you gave the quote from Benjamin Disraeli, Prime Minister of United Kingdom. He observed three kinds of lies: the lies, damned lies, and statistics. So it looks like he was kind of right. And we see that how open the economic models do not work. The favorites of surveys suddenly cannot win the elections. Weather forecasts fail. Uh, are these the lies of statistics? Is something wrong with statistics, or maybe we do not consider all factors in our models, or it's just, as you said, that's human behavior?
Actually, so actually, as you mentioned, I put this quote in one of my textbook, and thank you for using it in your class. I hope your students are getting benefit of this book. But I would disagree with this quote because data don't lie, numbers don't lie. It's the people. So you know, so data may be there, have collected properly, but for political reason or some other reasons, people are not giving full information. They are providing the partial information. So with based on partial information, I, as a statistician or a data scientist, I have no clue, although I think it's also my job to investigate the reliability of data. But sometimes you do in good faith. All you can't just every time investigate the data and spend 5 years. By the time is the things is over. It's like for election data, you predict after the outcome of the election what kind of a prediction it would be. So so it's statistics doesn't lie. But people use statistics in their benefits because statistics is very powerful subject, and people use it to make their cases. So they just twist the things. So to me, it's the people, it's not the data or modeling. And in terms of we are human beings, we have a limitation. A statistician, I always say in the class when I used to teach in those days before becoming deans, I really missed my teaching part of my life. And I used to tell the students, statisticians are not magicians. We are human beings, so we don't do magic. We whatever is given to us, based on that we try to do our best. So but the modeling is not that simple. It could be very complicated. And as you know, and also about the, you can't just simply say that the model I'm giving to you is the best model, or the model which coming from somebody else for the similar data, that's the best model. If you recall what GP Box said a few decades ago, all models are incorrect, but some of them are useful. So we are working with we are dealing with the data with very imprecise information, sometimes due to lack of information or due to political reasons. We are not getting the right data at hand. So and sometimes it's not like John Hopkins data is pretty reliable, but they are getting this information from somewhere. So that somewhere is reliable or not, that's a big question to me. And especially some countries where information, even to China, there are people who are talking about China, they did not release information in right time also. So, and the some other countries where better, I mean, the democracy is not there. Some of the dictators are controlling it for their reason or whatever reason. They are releasing the data to John Hopkins. So, but John Hopkins can do nothing about it. They just get it, and I'm sure they try to figure out how it's happening. So the model are as maybe incorrect, but some of them useful. So we should try to find the best useful model according to our solution, our problem. But maybe the model fits good in another country, but maybe this model doesn't fit very well in Canada. So we should not simply try to mimic the model. We should try to build a model on the ground reality. What is written on the wall, from where it is coming, For example, in many countries like Middle Eastern countries, if they are reporting correctly data, or African countries, their health conditions are different than the health conditions in the European and North American. There is a large population of 65 plus people in North America and Europe as compared to many other countries of the world. So modeling has to be done, with very due diligence, and you have to realize that there is no perfect model. There is no perfect one. So sometimes then people say, statistician, they don't know what they're doing. Today they predict something, tomorrow they predict something else. But that's the reality. There's nothing wrong with that, because especially when human beings are involved, the statistical model, when there are some other objects are involved in the model, are pretty precise and pretty good in terms of, but when it comes to human models, or humans are involved, or when it comes to the weather modeling, and also when it comes to stock markets, because they depends, anything can come up. I can predict, oh, the whole week is going, nobody knew about this COVID-19 is coming. So for the stock model was doing very well, suddenly a crash comes. So those kind of things happens, and we have to accept it. So there is nothing wrong in being a statistician. I can say, oh, that I can always predict with 100% accuracy. No, most of the time, just like our confidence interval definition, 95% time of 100. So, which is pretty good. And who knows where I'm doing that, that the actual data belongs to that 95 or belongs to 5%. But, you can do with 100% accuracy but sometimes some models are very, very accurate. So we have to just accept our limitations.
Yeah, I remember one story. One of my colleagues, um, he kind of made the model for stock market for one specific company, and it's a very well-known company, large company. He made kind of like a prediction that regarding their shares, that in 5 years they would get this high mark and so on. But suddenly that company had some problems, not just financial, jurisdictional problems. I talked to that guy. I said, well, how comes your model didn't work? He said, I considered all factors, all variables in my model, but how I could include the fact that they would bribe the local government, so I couldn't include that factor. I mean, I'm coming to yours that that's human behavior. Yeah, I mean, not all little factors can be considered. Doctor, one more thing that again I was listening in one of the conferences. You talked about the information through the media, through the internet. And I remember my student time when I was doing my, PhD project or whatever. I had maybe 10 journals to review, and we didn't have more. And yeah, it wasn't very easy physically to get those papers. If your institution doesn't subscribe those journals, you had to order, you had to get the paper copies, and it was taking days, weeks, sometimes months. At the end, after all the review, you could get 5 papers that relate to your research. Now I see even my students complain, and I see myself that you can find thousands of papers relating to research, but after reading them, analyzing them, you end up with the same five papers reliable. So it looks like there's out of those hundreds of papers, you can choose only five. Not just in our area, right? In physics or mathematics, I imagine if I was a social scientist, how many papers like that I could find. Um, in your, I remember in your presentation, you talked about that the matrix, I remember, and what was kind of shocking for me that it looks like 95% of information is not reliable. That maybe you could talk about that. I mean, how to prevent ourselves from those fake information. I know it's not very easy, but at least in your point of view as a researcher, what do you think? Is that possible to prevent ourselves? Is that kind of like booming now and then it will go down? What your research shows?
Okay, yeah, that's it's a very good question, and I think it has many components you talk. So let me talk about first thing about the reliability of the news or the media is giving us. So the problem is for media has different interest. Media has an interest for their rating also. They don't want to bring sometime maybe some people like me who is boring. They want somebody who's very energetic, very enjoyable, and when the people are listening and looking at him, they when his name or her name comes, they turn the TV again. So media interest is different than but they do a good job overall. And but they can't talk about at the TV also or the radio or things in very details. So they say, we used to say God in the details, but now they say devil in the details. So devil in the details. So that details most people don't bother, except few people who are in the field. We want to see it. So most people will take as a face value, whatever it is. So that's the thing, and the face value, I think the face value come because they want to they look at their audience. Their audience is not professor researcher. Their audience is people from all walks of the life. So for that reason they provide some simple answer. And sometimes, when you try to simplify the things, it could go either direction sometimes. So but I don't think the media, unless it's a biased media, they do purposefully. This just the nature of the business. So, but we have to be careful. So I remember during my PhD graduation, so what you mentioned about this reliability, and David Suzuki gave the graduation speech, or he was also, I think, honored with a honorary degree at that time. So I remember his words. It's 30 plus years now. I remember his words. He says, media creates the reality. As a young graduate, it's your job to investigate the reality. So again, but I would little bit say that probably they do not create the reality, but they just want to present as quickly, as fast, and as interesting as possible. But as a people, they should not just all the time accept the face value. But we don't need to be paranoid either. So there is a fine line. Everything comes up, oh, conspiracy theory. No, there's not, everything is not conspiracy theory. So we have to little bit, especially people who are in this area, they should little bit go deeper. So it's scratching the surface for us. if something is epidemiology or some medical things are coming, I will take the face value because I don't have the much knowledge on those area. But for when its data is coming, talking about modeling and other things, so I don't need to scratch the surface only. I should go a little bit deeper down, and we should, as a community members, as a society, we need to report these things in some way. No, there is a social media available, so we can't tell people back, by posting on social media that that's may not be accurate. And we should also be careful in choosing our words, that not completely attacking the media or anything else. So no, it's possible, but there is other possibility as well. So maybe media is giving you one possibility which may be true or may not be true, but there may be a host of possibility, or arrays of possibility. So that part, we have to be careful as a person who has more knowledge of the data, and for data savvy people. And the regarding research one, there are lots of research going on. So it's I think it would be unrealistic for us to say that each research is very innovative and making a dent each paper. Not really, it's not possible. And because we read the papers, we get some ideas, and we see we can do some improvement a little bit here and there, and you get one paper. So, and like, if you remember what Picasso said one time, the famous artist, he said, a good artist borrow the idea, a great artist steal the idea. So research is like that. We are not really stealing it, but we are working on some idea which was floated even hundreds of years ago. So we are still working on some kind of thing, but that's okay. That's the progress to me. And so, and but if we do enough work, so I cannot make a dent in one of the research area. But if I can start putting some scratches here and there, then if we combine all these scratches, that might become a dent. So there is, don't need to worry that all these papers look similar, other this and that. And of course, then sometime I joke about it, is right now in statistical lecture, machine learning and penalized likelihood is a very hot area. So in what they do, variable selection. So you come with millions of variables, and then for the model building, and they only select 5 variables. So one can do same things on the publication. So out of maybe 100 papers, maybe 5 are really good one. But to create those 5, you need another 95. So to me, I'm not, but it's also on the individual conscious to make sure, because you are the best judge of your publication to begin with. But sometimes not, sometimes it happens to me. I thought this paper will be rejected right away, and it got accepted right away. And sometimes I thought this paper is the best, I'm doing this work, and then goes to referees, editors, and doesn't sell it through. So that's happened. So I think that's okay. Not every paper cannot be original 100%. Some originality, some innovation is there. And this is also remind me saying about a bridal dress or bridal gown at the wedding. Something borrowed, something new, and something used. So this is a research paper.
Yeah.
We borrow some techniques, we use some techniques from whatever existed, and then we put something new, and together you make a presentation. So that's okay to me, but nowadays what's happening, there are too many people. When I 30 years plus years ago, there are very few statistics journal and not too many papers people were publishing also. But the things has been changed. People are under pressure to publish more, from granting agencies and from whatever reasons, from even government pressure. They want to show that their universities are doing well. So there are too many papers nowadays. And there are too many journals also. So my old joke about it, I forgot. But it says for every paper, there is a journal. For every journal, there are papers. So, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. You know, Doctor, I remembered when I was a child. I mean, you know, I grew up in Azerbaijan. It's kind of a Middle East country. It used to be part of Soviet Union, but Asian country, and in every town you have a bazaar, not bazaar, I mean market, right?
No, no,
That's
bazaar,
we
bazaar.
call that bazaar, but in English, let's say market. And we had a market too. And when I was a child, I was thinking it was a huge. But when last time I visited, apparently it wasn't the huge. It was very small, but childhood time. And I was going to market, and I was listening. You know, mostly the people, adult people, they were talking about something. I was kind of like catching all that information and coming back and tell all those stories to my grandmother. But you know, the child has her own interpretation. I understand that now that I didn't express exactly that information. I was changing, kind of like making up some stories. And my grandmother told me that, you know, don't listen everything that in the market. So it's kind of like it reminds me of our today's internet. So probably, as you said, we have to listen, but we have to make our own analysis if it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. So that's that's very reasonable.
So
Uh,
if I say you reminded from your grandmother story, you reminded me my late father. He, about this information, he used to say very simply, and even he would ask, he says, why humans have two ears, two of them. So, I respond to him, I say, it's for symmetry. So it's look good, just like two eyes, two ears, and then the one nose. And so it's look very symmetrical. No. Then he says, two ears, from one ears to listen, and from other ears to take it off. And then he says, and the important things you keep in the middle.
Oh yeah, that's very wise.
So that's what
Yeah,
it is nowadays. It's not
yeah,
the ear, it's just we are reading it, and now we have two eyes. So maybe
yeah.
one eye is to read it, and other eyes to take it off. So we have to do, in our studies, one of the paper you mentioned about censorship, there are data are censored. So we kind of not censor in terms of the freedom censoring. We have to censor the information also ourselves, because there are lots of things is happening, and we have to make sure whether this information is correct or not. So we need to be careful. So I agree with the wisdom of your grandmother, and maybe in the end I will talk about the wisdom part, but you move on first.
Yeah, Doctor, we talked about kind of like about the past and about our days, but again, I remember my parents, my grandparents. For them, there existed two eras: before the war and after the war. They meant the World War II. Uh, my feeling is that at least for two, three generations of our days, the timeline will be divided by the COVID-19 pandemic. So some experts think that this COVID-19 will stay with us forever, perhaps with a lighter presence. But inarguably, the pandemic has changed our lifestyle globally, dramatically. We are teaching remotely, learning remotely, shopping remotely, even partying remotely. Um, in my opinion, along with many problems, the pandemic also generates some opportunities. Uh, Hopefully, we will come back to normal sooner or later. But how do you see our post-COVID world? What negative and positive impacts of this pandemic are waiting for us in the future?
I I think human beings are very tough species, by nature. So if you go through the history, there are many things happens in past, and then actually indigenous people can help us on this aspect. They have more history and stories they know, which they observed, and then how they dealt with it. So I think there is a need, and especially nowadays we are indigenization, the science and all other things. It's very important to find out how, and then the storytellers, because just like you heard from your grandparents, they are keeping lots of stories. So we need to discuss with them that how in the past people survived. They went through lots of different stages and they did survive. So I think we will survive. But life is time change. It's like a fashion, bell bottom or tight pants. So so
Mm.
now it's no more bell bottom, it's the tight pants. So we will survive. And then these internet online things have been developing for some times. We were not using it. And in some way, like the Zoom one, we never did it. It was there, I think, almost a decades ago, or other video chatting things. But now we are doing it. So, and also to me, the positive part of going this online, you know, I'm also coming from Pakistan, and in the rural area of Pakistan, there is schools are not there. Even the schools are there, there is a quality of education is not there, not having the best trained teachers. So these kids are very smart. They are no less smarter than the kids in a urban city, or anybody else, but they don't have the opportunity. So maybe this will provide them opportunity. So to me, I cannot bring students to my class from their home, but I can go to their home now. So maybe this is an opportunity, because the basic education by United Nations Charter of United Nations is the basic human rights. So I think but it's just, to me, sometimes it's all fictional narratives unless you really do it. So now it is the time that we do it, and we take the education from the classroom to the home, and especially those who cannot afford to come to the classroom. So I think there is a positive aspect. And before we were talking about it, but we really did not do much. But now we will have more experience. We will be learning the online teaching experience. All kind of things people are talking about, the cheating exams, all how to do this. But as we say, for every human problem there is a human solution. So we will find a solution. We only find solution when we identify the problem. So we can't find a solution of the things which we don't know the problem exists. So now we will be finding the problems, and then recognizing the problems, and then finding the solution. So I think there is a positive aspect in that way, that it will be more global. The education could be more global if we do it properly and right. And that is possible, when you are going online. So online has no limitation, and it could be do either way, hybrid way. And then when COVID-19 will go, we will already have experience of doing online. So I hope we will continue doing it, and then even face-to-face education will come. But this new generation, they probably even not that much crazy about this face-to-face one, because what's happening, some of our online courses we offer in summer, the students are staying at the residence, and they are taking the online course. It's just take them 5 minutes to walk from their from dorm to come to the classroom, but they are more comfortable with taking online courses. So I don't think there is any negative impact. People say how you will learn, there will be a problem in the learning, students will not learn by going online. But this kind of things has been said in past also. in mathematics is chalk and blackboard. So I remember at one of my previous university when we were removing the chalkboard and bringing the whiteboard. So one older mathematician, I was department head, he came to me. He says, if you remove the blackboards, that will be death of mathematics. Mathematics is flourishing and alive. So, and the kids who are coming from the high school, there is no blackboard there. So is the generation on the crossroad has always problem that because they have seen something. So I think it will be a positive change, and then things would be changed, and we should prepare for change. I think I forgot the name, that Nobel Ared who said that the opportunities comes to prepare mind. Are we prepared? So we got to prepare. Why not?
I thank you, Doctor. So I think it's very positive, kind of like ending. I'm glad we're finishing on that note. Would you like to to add something that I didn't ask?
I think it's about time I talk about the indigenous people and the knowledge. We have been, if you remember, in last 30, 40 years, we are making center of excellence, center of knowledge, center of innovation, creating that, and then everybody copycats around the world. I travel, as you know, I travel around the globe, give many research talks and in countries, and then I visit their campuses. I see the center everywhere, same center of this, center of this. How about center of knowledge and wisdom? And that's where our indigenous population can play a leading role. So because the knowledge and wisdom, they have it, that's like you talk about your grandparents, I talk about my father, I uh, and of course for the indigenous people, they have a back history for many decades and centuries. So how about learning from them? We just talk about the observational studies and or experimental studies, but how about the wisdom, which is, in before medicine came, it used to be hakim. Do you know the
Yeah,
hakim? You
yeah,
heard?
Doctor.
It's like a doctor, and then if he knows how to treat uh, cold or something, so he knows the medicine for that, and that will go with him. He will keep it and give it to his son, and when he passed away for this thing. But then when the medical science came, and we learned from them. So this is about time for us to learn more from them and see how we can progress. So to me, there is a need for a center for knowledge and wisdom. We had enough center for innovation and center for excellence and all kind of centers. So with that note, I think I will, unless you have any other comments to make.
Yeah, that's. I think it's. I would make conclusion, kind of continuing your last word. So it looks like as first Europeans, they learned from indigenous people how to survive. So we're coming back to that. Again, we have to keep learning from indigenous people and survive this pandemic. So thank you very much, Doctor. I hope you will have time again for more informal discussions in future and uh, post-pandemic time too, to check your predictions of
Yes,
pandemic.
so I just working with couple of my friends from Morocco, because they have, according to them, they have a very good data for Morocco. So we did apply some prediction models and other things, and that paper is submitted to a journal. So I will talk about it. So the prediction was pretty good, but then in cross validation. But the future one, I am always little bit worried. If human behavior, things changes as we talk. So I can always do the cross validation, which is easy, that I predicted this and that happened. But that's give you certainty for the future also. But with the human behavior, it's a problematic. But so again, thank you very much for the invitation. I really enjoyed my conversation. and I hope we will have another opportunity. So,
Yeah, let's say, inshallah. Thank
inshallah,
you very
God,
much.
yeah, God
Thank you
willing.
very much.
Okay, okay.
Thank you
Allah
very
Hafiz, Khuda
much.
Hafiz. Bye bye.